Hi there, and welcome to This Day in History for October 26th. October 26th is the 299th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 300th in leap years, with 66 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is keelhaul. Keelhaul is a verb that means to rebuke or reprimand severely. This word comes to us from the history of sailing and ships and matters maritime. So let's talk for a moment about the anatomy of a ship and how that applies to the rest of the definition that I'll give you in just a moment. I'll try to be thorough and yet brief enough to keep it interesting. Okay, so in the anatomy of a ship or boat, the front is called the bow. The back is called the stern. The right side is called starboard, and the left is called port. The keel is a very important anatomical feature of a boat or ship. It's a heavily reinforced spine that runs along the bottom of the ship through the center, front to back, very much like an actual spine. The hull is the shell of the boat and is the most visible part, and the rudder is a flap in the back that helps steer. Keels can come in lots of different forms, and I believe there are names for all of them. Back to today's word, though. In the current time, keelhaul means to rebuke or reprimand severely. No slap on the wrist, this one. But as far back as 700 BC, there's mention of a punishment, usually for piracy, that involved dragging the individual in the water, either along the keel or from one side of the keel to the other. There's a little more mention of this practice in the 1600s as ocean travel increased, both for merchant marine operations and military naval operations. Actual physical keel hauling, though, was often fatal to the person being hauled. It was such an extreme punishment that the term came to be applied on land to a severe reprimand or rebuke. The word keelhaul is a combination of the Scandinavian word keel, as defined above, and Old English haul, which means to drag or pull. First known use of the word keelhaul is in about the mid-1600s. Keelhaul. The word keelhaul was suggested by YouTube viewer Joseph Horniak at JosephHorniak4908 as a word from his maritime days. Thank you, Joseph. And if you have a word you'd like us to examine in this Word of the Day section, drop it in the comments. We'll put it on the list. Take a look at it. And with that, cholera is an illness caused by ingestion of food or water that is contaminated with cholera bacteria. It's more likely to occur in unhygienic conditions, which is why it's always a concern after a disaster like flooding or storm destruction. Hand washing and sanitary conditions and proper cooking can help avoid cholera, but we didn't always know that. Alongside that, we have the Austrian-Turkish War going on from 1683 to 1699. Austrian General Silvio Piccolomini had been sent to capture Kosovo, Bosnia, and Macedonia from the Ottoman Empire. Today's item is that on October 26, 1689, General Piccolomini ordered the city of Skopje in Macedonia to be burned down, ostensibly to prevent the spread of cholera. Ironically, he himself contracted cholera and died shortly thereafter. The First Continental Congress adjourned in Philadelphia on October 26, 1774. This is the birthday of author Napoleon Hill, born October 26, 1883. He was a best-selling self-help book writer, best known for his book Think and Grow Rich, in which we can read about how desire, faith, and persistence can propel one to great heights if we can suppress negative thoughts and focus on long-term goals. Might sound simplistic, but I think there are some useful principles to study and follow in there. Napoleon Hill lived to the age of 87. The first electric generator at Hoover Dam went into full operation on October 26, 1936. The last natural case of smallpox occurred in Somalia on October 26, 1977. The World Health Organization and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention consider this date to be the anniversary of the spectacular success of vaccination. The United States passed the USA PATRIOT Act into law on October 26, 2001. Interestingly, US PATRIOT is what is known as a backronym. We've discussed before that an acronym is a word formed from the initial components of a longer name or phrase, usually using individual initials or letters, as in NATO for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization or EU for the European Union. A backronym, though, is an acronym that's assigned to a word that existed prior to the invention of the backronym. That said, USA PATRIOT is a backronym that stands for Uniting and Strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. Now, I've mentioned other things on previous episodes for October 26, and I'll leave a link for you just in case you want to see one of those. Today's song is Then Came You by Dionne Warwick and the Spinners. Written by Sherman Marshall and Philip T. Hugh, this song was released in July of 1974. And as popular as Dionne Warwick had been for over a decade, I was surprised to learn that this was her first ever single to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, which it did on October 26, 1974. Then Came You by Dionne Warwick and the Spinners. Link in the description. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That playlist lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page that's called No Really. You can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. This is the birthday.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I wasn't talking to you. Okay. Cacophony is a sound. Cacophony is a noun that... I'm going to have to look that up. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Alrighty. You got to read it the right way. Let's start over. It's 8 o'clock, so all of the reminders are going to be dinging. I forgot to turn those off. Okay, stop it. It's 8 o'clock. Don't alienate people who can be helpful to you. Flinging happiness all over the place. Alrighty, back to work. I think we got it this time.